Philadelphia is the birthplace of American democracy. Yet Philadelphia is not a democracy. Now, it's election day in Philadelphia, and we just had Mayor Nutter in here bringing the house down. So it's a funny occasion on which to make this claim. So what do I mean by democracy? Well, I was once a politics PhD student up the road at Princeton, during which time we surveyed the great thinkers in fundamental democratic philosophy, which I'll coarsely summarize here for you in two parts. First, democracy is knowledge. As a democratic citizen, you must know the issues, where you stand, and which of your representatives stands with you. Second, democracy is participation. As a democratic citizen, at a minimum, you must vote for the candidates who will stand with you and against those who will not. Knowledge and participation. That's it. And it's the extent to which we are falling short at these very basic thresholds in Philadelphia that today I question the legitimacy of this city's democracy. Let's look at local political knowledge. I'd like to start by taking a silent poll. Please think to yourselves, what is the name of your Pennsylvania state senator? Your state representative? Or on the ballot today, your city council person or city commissioner? A 1947 political science study coined the term know nothing to describe the politically uninformed. Now, it's not a very nice term, so before I stand up here and cast aspersions, let me be the first to admit that before preparing this talk today, I was 0 for 4 in that silent poll. My name is Keya Dannenbaum, and I am a know-nothing. A know-nothing, a later study went on to explain, is, quote, not mentally prepared to continue the society because they basically do not understand the society enough to value it. A 2007 study by Annenberg graduate Lee Shaker found that 1/3 of us in the city of Philadelphia are know-nothings. The good news, if you can call it that, is that that figure is no different here than it is at the national level. 1/3 of Americans are know-nothings too. So how about participation? On April 22nd, 2008, in one of the longest, closest, fiercest presidential primary battles in recent memory, when Hillary Clinton's candidacy hung in the balance and Pennsylvania was a must-win, half of this city's voters turned out, 53%. Now, given our low expectations of turnout, I'm sure some of you are thinking, hey, that's really not so bad. It really gets troubling when we take a look at this year's local primary, when that participation number plummets to 12%. If 2 million of us can rally for the Phillies when they bring home the World Series, surely we can do better on Election Day. On the other hand, you may be thinking, so what? I read the news, I vote for president. Isn't that enough? And you're right. The United States federal budget is $2.8 trillion a year. So yes, it is important that at the national level, the right people are in charge. And state and local governments, on the other hand, their annual budgets are only $2.7 trillion annually. Not so different in the end, and probably pretty important that the right people are in charge there, too. And that balance only shifts further when we look at the issues that are most salient in our daily lives, like public education, transportation infrastructure, public works, and local law enforcement. Where the federal government spends $56 billion annually on public education, it's a figure that is dwarfed by the $810 billion state and local dollars that go into education each year. So I'm spending my 8 minutes with you this morning trying to give weight to the cliche that all politics is local. But the truth is, it took me 8 years to get here. I began as a starry-eyed undergraduate, and I wanted to change the world. And I was going to do that on the world stage. So I majored in international relations, I graduated with a Fulbright scholarship and moved to Bogota, Colombia, to work with displaced populations and child soldiers. Packed it up again, moved to Mumbai, India, to work with and ultimately write a book on marginalized women, and came back, as I mentioned, to start a PhD in international politics. But after years on the ground in the ivory tower, I wasn't being the change I wanted to see in the world, and it was 2007, so I left for Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign. And despite the hope that 53% of you and the rest of Pennsylvania gave us during that long haul primary, we all know how things turned out, and I moved on to the hyper-local in New Haven, Connecticut. Campaigning for my candidates in New Haven, I must have walked every block in that city twice. And only then did I really get it. New Haven at that time was considered one of the 10 most dangerous urban centers in the country. And at the same time, it was implementing a national model in education reform. And there I was on the doorsteps of people persevering through adversity with the audacity to aspire, hearing mothers and their school children championing the importance of better alternatives in education so the shootings would stop. I didn't need to go to Bogota to find child soldiers. The stories I heard going door to door in New Haven were that raw, and they were also proximate, and local leaders could make a difference. I ran 2 city council races that year in wards that bordered what has been called the most dangerous street corner in America. I lost one of those races by 19 votes, and won another by 12. Those numbers haunt me. Lives hang in the balance and voters flip a coin. It's not so different here than it was there in Philadelphia. Your local vote matters. So that's the problem. Now, what are we going to do about it? Well, there's the internet, right? The great democratizer of knowledge and participation. Except that a recent Pew study showed that despite the information revolution, we are no more politically knowledgeable today than we were in the 1980s. And a recent 2010 study out of Princeton shows that while the internet proliferates national news, it does so at the expense of local. In other words, it's making this problem worse. We can't just sit back and wait for the internet to help us. We have to help it help us by creating the tools to navigate its ocean of information and extract that which is relevant and actionable, which is exactly what I'm trying to work on in my current project, ElectNext. ElectNext is a matching platform that wants to help you vote and vote well all the way down your ballot by showing you how you align to your candidates based on what you believe. We like to call it eHarmony for your elections. ElectNext launched today, and with it launches a vision that with this tool, we will leverage the democratizing power of the internet to dramatically improve local political knowledge and participation in local political communities. So I started today with a question, with a statement. Let me finish with a question. Philadelphia, do you live in a democracy? And what are you going to do about it?